Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is one that I've carried in my body for years before I can put words to it. We're talking about breaking generational curses, but not in the aesthetic, cute Instagram quote kind of way. I'm talking about the reality, what it means to walk away from narcissistic, emotionally unsafe environments, especially when it's your own family. And this is deeply personal to me because it happened to me. And let me be clear, breaking generational curses isn't a Pinterest quote, it's a full body experience. My nervous system has been in fight or flight, hypervigilant, tense, exhausted, fast heart rate for years, decades. So let's talk about it. Narcissists don't just hurt your feelings, it rewires your biology. Your body learns that love means walking on eggshells, that family's betrayal, and that safety is just a fantasy. And when I chose myself, when I walked away, that's when my healing began. When I was quiet, I was uncelebrated. It was messy and lonely. And some days I grieved the family I never truly had. Other days I raged at the years I lost, trying to earn love that was always conditional. But with every boundary I set, every no I spoke out loud, every version of me I buried, and every new version of me that I birthed, I chose myself. When I was jobless, sick, burnt out, I was still trying to lean on my mom, the person who was supposed to be my safety net. And when I realized she wasn't going to treat me with respect, and I said, I need respect. This isn't emotionally safe. She didn't ask what was wrong. She didn't try to comfort me. She pointed the finger and said I was a problem. And that broke me. Because deep down, I already felt like a problem. Like maybe I was too much for everyone, too emotional, too sensitive, too reactive that I can't be loved unconditionally. The truth is, I wasn't too much. I was in too little of an environment, too little safety, too little compassion, too little truth. And yes, I'll own this. Sometimes I spoke with my truth in a reactive state. When you're constantly being invalidated, gaslit, blamed, you go into survival mode. You're not polished, you're not perfect, but you're honest. And I was always honest. And what I've learned though is that when you're dealing with narcissists, the truth without strategy becomes a weapon used against you. You can tell the truth, but if you don't say it in a way that can manipulate or they can control you, they'll rage, punish, and they'll try to destroy your character. Because narcissists don't want truth, they want control. And that's when I learned something that changed my life. You cannot heal in the same environment that you got sick. You can't breathe deeply in a room where you learn to hold your breath. You can't rebuild your nervous system around people who trained it to always be on high alert. And as much as I wanted reconciliation, as much as I hoped they would see me, hear me, understand me, they didn't, and they never will. So I stopped needing them. I stopped needing them to understand. So let's talk about the reality of what narcissism actually is, because a lot of people love to throw that term around without knowing what it is and what it feels to actually survive it. Narcissists are not just arrogant people, they're emotionally unsafe people. They lack empathy, not just in moments, but as a constant trait. And they see relationships as power plays. Every conversation is about winning, every boundary is a threat, every truth is betrayal. And no, I don't like the term hurt people because that narrative is dangerous, because they're not suffering in the way you and I think of suffering. They don't feel shame the way we do. They feel injured narcissistically, meaning when you show up with honesty or vulnerability, they see it as an attack on their ego, not as an opportunity for connection. Walking away from toxic family was the hardest thing I've ever done, but staying was killing me slowly, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I chose myself. I chose to regulate my nervous system. I chose to stop explaining basic human decency to people who were never going to get it. I chose to stop explaining empathy. If you're in that place now and you're wondering whether you're crazy for feeling what you feel, you're not. Your body knows, your soul knows, and if no one has told you today you're not a problem, you're just finally done playing small to make other people feel big. That's not disrespect, that's self-respect. And that if that makes you a villain in their story, let them rewrite it, because you're writing a new one where you're choosing better for yourself. And if they truly cared, they would want you to choose better for yourself. So let's talk about narcissism. Let's actually talk about it, because once you've lived through it, it's not just a label, it's a survival skill to understand it. And there are different types of narcissism. Okay, there's severity levels in the dark triad. Each one can affect you uniquely in damaging ways. So you got your covert narcissist, and they don't look toxic at first. They can be passive aggressive, victimized, emotionally manipulative in quiet ways, guilt trip you instead of yelling. They'll act hurt instead of taking accountability. And you might find yourself always apologizing for hurting their feelings when you've done nothing wrong. Example, a parent who might say something, I guess I'm just a terrible mother then, when you set a boundary and you say how you feel. They'll use your pain against you. And then you have your grandiose narcissists, and these narcissists are assholes. They are obvious to everybody. Okay, they're arrogant, attention-seeking, they're entitled, they dominate conversations, they brag, and they see others as tools to boost their own ego. When you challenge them, you'll get immediate pushback. So, someone who gets angry when you succeed because they'll feel outshined. Then you have your malignant narcissist, and this is the most dangerous and traumatic type of narcissist because it's a combination of narcissism with traits of antisocial personality disorder, which means they lack empathy. They can be sadistic. These are people who are genuinely pleased by your pain. They're controlling, cruel, and they have signs that show they intentionally try to harm. You don't believe people are like this until you meet one. Suddenly your body knows, your mind knows that I've been around someone who smiled when I cried, that was calm when I was having a meltdown. Not because they were grounded, but because they enjoyed seeing you lose your mind. Living around narcissists doesn't just affect your emotions, it rewires your nervous system. Your body learns that love is instability, that affection is manipulation, and that speaking up is a punishment. You become hypervigilant. You anticipate any rage, any mood swing. You walk on eggshells, and eventually your body starts to scream, which your mouth has never said. This is not safe. That's why when you leave, it doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like withdrawal. It feels like guilt. It feels like grief, because that's your nervous system trying to reset, trying to relearn what is safe. And that's also why I believe in speaking truth, but speaking it strategically. Not for them, but for you. Because if you speak it in the middle of their chaos, they'll flip it. They'll rage at you, shame you, use it as evidence you're unstable. They don't want truth. They want submission. So if you're someone who's walking away from toxic family, I want to tell you something I wish somebody would have told me sooner. You're not broken. You're not crazy. You're breaking a cycle that didn't start with you, but ends with you. You're not dramatic. You're traumatized. And the fact that you're still standing, still speaking, still seeking peace, that's your power. Not everyone will understand why you left. Some will call you the villain, but I promise you, your healing is worth more than their comfort. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm, especially not those who handed you the match. So here's your permission slip. Speak your truth, protect your peace, and to never again apologize for demanding emotional safety. This is how we break generational curses. Not just by walking away, but by walking towards something better. So let's talk about why narcissists are the way they are. Why is not your job to fix them? Because I know if you're anything like me, a deeply feeling, sensitive, intuitive person, you've probably spent years trying to understand someone who caused you so much pain. You've probably wondered, why do they treat me like this? Why can't they see that I'm hurting? Do they just not care? Do they hate me? And it's so confusing because sometimes they seem to show empathy. They can cry at movies. They're gentle with animals. They can play the victim really well. Here's the truth no one tells you. Narcissists are not just emotionally unsafe people. They're the worst kind. The worst kind of narcissist is the malignant. They're not just unaware, they're predatory. Okay? Malignant narcissism is a dangerous blend of narcissistic personality disorder, grandiosity, lack of empathy, entitlement, antisocial traits, manipulation, cruelty, a lack of remorse, sadism. They enjoy the emotional pain. This isn't someone who has just a big ego that just wants some attention. No, this is not your typical narcissist. This is somebody that actually feeds off control, punishment, and psychological domination, especially people who are kind, open-hearted, and emotionally honest. They'll target you because you have something they don't, not because something is wrong with you. Your sensitivity, they'll mock it. Your boundaries, they see as betrayal. Your light, it exposes their darkness. Your truth, it threatens their false reality. You're like a mirror to them. And when a narcissist looks at you, they don't see a person to love, even though you're so lovable. They see a reflection they can't stand, and they want to shatter that mirror. They want to shatter you. Let's get clear. Because this is where people get stuck. You can't change a narcissist. You cannot love them into emotional maturity. You cannot reason with teaching somebody empathy. You can't. The lack of empathy is not by accident, okay? It's by design. This is a personality structure, not a temporary wound. You could show up with the best intentions, the purest heart, the softest voice. They'll still twist it. They'll still punish you. They'll still make you the enemy for having the audacity to want respect. So stop taking it personally, because it was never about you. So here's some things that I had to learn the hard way. A narcissist doesn't hate you because you're broken. They hate you because you're not broken. You're not like them. Amen. Because you expect more. You ask for honesty. You shine light on things they want hidden. You trigger the shame they refuse to feel. So they push it on you instead. And listen, I know how hard it is to not take that personally, especially when it's a parent, especially when it's somebody that you love. But their rejection of you, their cruelty, and their inability to change, it's not proof you're unworthy or unlovable. It's proof they're incapable. Okay, they can't be there for you, even if they wanted. You could have done everything right and the outcome would have been the same. Because it was never about who you are. It's about what they lack inside. So stop expecting bread from a hardware store. Okay? Don't expect someone to pour love into you when they don't have it. You've heard this saying before. That's exactly what it's like trying to get emotional nourishment from a narcissist. They don't have it. They never did. They're not going to start now. And when you stop expecting it, you stop suffering. You don't have to feel guilty for walking away. You don't have to explain your pain to someone who weaponizes your words. You don't have to keep waiting for them to give you what you want, because they can't. Okay? And if you're a sensitive, kind, deeply emotional person who has been broken down by a narcissist, it's not because you're weak, it's because you have what they don't. And they needed to destroy it to feel powerful, because the fact that you're still here, still feeling, still healing, still standing, that means they didn't win. And you don't have to carry their damage no longer. People sometimes ask me how I know so much about narcissism, and I always tell them because I lived it. I grew up in a house where emotional abuse was normal, where physical violence was part of the atmosphere, where I did not feel safe, seen, or protected, not even by the people who were supposed to have my back. So when you grow up in that kind of home, you grow up fast. You stop expecting to be rescued. You start learning how to self-soothe, to self-validate, and to survive. But here's the part that people don't talk about enough. That strength, that independence, that ability to handle pain becomes a coping mechanism, a kind of emotional alchemy. You learned how to hold yourself together, even when you're falling apart inside. And so childhood trauma will shape our adult relationships because we're still learning. So if you've never had consistent emotional safety, your nervous system will get drawn to just what's familiar, not what's healthy. You're not necessarily chasing toxicity, you're chasing regulation. You're chasing someone who feels calm to your nervous system, kind, emotionally available, someone who listens, calls you sweetheart, validates your feelings, someone gentle with you. But here's the trap. You've never known what real safety feels like. You might put up with a lot of dysfunction from a man or woman just to get those tiny moments of tenderness. You'll take the sweet with the abuse. You'll rationalize the red flags because at least it's not yelling. At least it's not rejecting. You'll tolerate emotional distance, avoidance, or manipulation just to not feel alone. And sometimes you end up in relationships that feel so similar to your upbringing, just dressed up different. That's what trauma does. It creates familiarity loops. And I've been there. I've put up with too much. I've been too nice. I've stayed too long. I've explained myself to people who just wasn't even listening, hoping I just said it the right way, they'd understand. What I was really hoping for was someone who felt safe to my nervous system, somebody who wouldn't punish me for having emotions, someone who would sit with me, someone who wouldn't use silence as a weapon, someone who saw my sensitivity as a gift not a weakness. And because I didn't fully know myself back then, I didn't always know how to recognize who was safe. I didn't yet understand that I was allowed to have standards, that I didn't have to take the good with the bad. And if the bad was costing me my peace, my health, my soul, it's too expensive. So that's why it's so important to know yourself. And that can take years. Okay? Because when you know your nervous system, your attachment wounds, your emotional needs, your core values, you stop inviting chaos. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. You stop thinking you have to earn love by being low maintenance, unbothered, or chill. Okay? You start making room for people that can bring depth, kindness, emotional intelligence, intimacy, consistency, actual connection to your life. So if you're someone who's always been too independent, too sensitive, too much, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with wanting softness. There's nothing wrong with needing people. We're interdependent beings. I used to think like, oh, I can't depend on anyone. It's bad to want people. It's bad to need people. No, it's okay to be honest and say, I need you. There's everything right about finally choosing people who can meet you in your depth without punishing you for it. Because the right people will never feel like you have to earn your worth. And for somebody like me, I was the scapegoat. Not every scapegoat feels deeply. As an INFJ, I feel so deeply and I'm so sensitive, and I think that's why I was stuck in so much condemnation for so long, because that it really affected me. And that's why I think I developed an autoimmune disease, because it broke me. It broke me. So I just want you to know that it's okay to walk away and choose yourself, because narcissists will not change. And so you've cried enough over them. Start living your life for you and finding joy, and don't try to escape the pain, but really live out your truth. Go deeper with yourself. You can't move forward till you go deeper. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.